If you saw the thumbnail, you know what time it is. It is time for MicroStrategy when moon. We're going to take a look at some data here for MicroStrategy and try to decide where this thing could go this cycle. What's the highest potential price we are thinking? What's the average price we might be thinking? Let's get into a when moon. And before we get going, smash that like button, subscribe if you've been with us a while and haven't done so yet, and check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description as well as the video bio. We've got some great products available here, some t-shirts as well as a sticker here for the Trade Cave logo. Check that out. Let's get into it. So today, MicroStrategy is actually trading up nicely in the pre-market right now. It will open in about 7 minutes here, and that will start fluctuating quite a lot more. But we are seeing some nice patterns right now on MicroStrategy as of the date of this recording, which is July 29th, 2024. You can see here, this is actually a nice Morningstar pattern that we've got right here. Let me draw it here. Draw a circle around this thing. So we got a nice Morningstar pattern right here, right? This candle right here came down. We got a nice doji here. And then we got a gap up here, which is nice the day before, and we are gapping up again today. So this is a very bullish pattern, meaning that we could, at least in the short term, be pretty aggressive here. We are going to hit resistance at the top of this ascending channel right here at the area around 1853. We could find some resistance there, and we are outside of the ATR bands right now, so that could be an issue for the day. But what we're here to do today is not a daily assessment of MicroStrategy. We're here to do a when moon. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare this thing to Bitcoin. Then we're going to talk about some base cases for Bitcoin. Once we do all that, we'll do the calculations for MicroStrategy. But first, let's take a look at Bitcoin. All right, so we've got the Bitcoin chart here. Now, this is a weekly chart right now. So like each movement represents 1 week. It's got a line chart on there for you today, just because I'm going to be comparing it to MicroStrategy. I've got it all the way back here to the, let's see, the beginning of the previous cycle. So we've got 2020 all the way through until today, which is, last halving plus the halving that just happened here recently. And the price movement we've seen in that period of time is 827%. Okay, that's a pretty big move. From the bottom, from the previous, like the halving of the previous year, right? Yeah, from 2019, 2020, the beginning of 2020 all the way until now. That's 4 years, 800%. That's insane. And 4 years annualized, that's over 200% per year on Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. That's great. Let's go take a look at year to date. Let's see, year to date would start here. Year to date, right there. Okay. Year to date, we've got 61.88% year to date. Yeah, let me just move it a little bit. Yeah, about 65% year to date. Now, let's add MicroStrategy to the mix. Bring it in. Boom. MicroStrategy year to date, by comparison, it is 192.42% versus Bitcoin. This thing moved a little bit, actually. Let me go to a daily for this so I can gauge this a little nicer. Let me see here. Let's just go January 1 right here. January 1 right there. Okay. Better. That's better. That was easier. Okay, so Bitcoin up 57.61% on the daily chart here for a year-to-date comparison. MicroStrategy up 155.81%. You can see if we come all the way back here, it's January 1 is where it first begins. Now, let me get these out. Let me bring up a calculator. I'm going to need 2 of these, so let me bring up 2 calculators. All right, so first calculator. We got 155.81%. We're going to divide that by 57.54%. So year to date, MicroStrategy has outperformed Bitcoin by a factor of 2.7. So whatever Bitcoin has done is 2.7 times that amount. So if you put $1,000 into Bitcoin for MicroStrategy, you would have $2,700 for every $1,000 you put into Bitcoin. So that is pretty phenomenal if you ask me. Now, I do want to go a little further out. So I'd like to see a longer term perspective of how MicroStrategy performs compared to Bitcoin. So we're going to go back to the weekly chart. We are now looking at the entirety of the move of Bitcoin and MicroStrategy since the last halving of Bitcoin, which was on May 11th, 2020. And since that time, Bitcoin has gone up 804.11%, and MicroStrategy has gone up 1,355.8% in that amount of time. So let's get our second calculator out. So we saw this. This was year to date. Year to date was 2.7 times the movement of Bitcoin. And now let's see, since the very last halving, which was in 2020, so a whole halving cycle, plus a little bit. Now it's going 6.1. Okay, it's moving. I'm just going to start with 1360 since it's moving a lot on MicroStrategy. We're going to divide that by 804.33. And so it has done 1.69 times the amount of Bitcoin over the course of a whole cycle. So you know what? I'm actually going to use that longer time frame. So I'm going to get rid of the year to date, which is 2.7. That was phenomenal, but I would like a longer time frame in order to make a decision about where I think MicroStrategy could go. All right. So what do we know so far? We know that the base case that a lot of analysts have for Bitcoin is $150,000. That's just this year, not necessarily this cycle. So just this year, they're saying their base case is about $150,000 by the end of the year. So let's take a look at that. So where would MicroStrategy be if Bitcoin was at $150,000 by the end of the year? So let's get rid of MicroStrategy on here. Now let's go back to this. All right, so we can see the price here. Let me turn this back to a normal chart for me. All right, and then I want to go to a daily on here. Great, I like that better. All right. So Bitcoin is currently at 69,519 and it's moving around. So I'm going to go with 65,500. Okay, 65,500. And if we have $150,000 and we are going by that 69,500, I know it's slightly higher than that, but just for the sake, since it's moving all the time. So that would be an increase of 2.15 for 2.15, a factor of 2.15. So it's 215%, 215.8% to be exact. Okay, 2.158. And we know that MicroStrategy moves by a factor of 69, almost 70% more than Bitcoin. So 2.158 times by 1.6908. We'll just get all those in there. Equals 3.64. So we can expect MicroStrategy to move by 364.87% from today's price through the end of the year if we're doing a base case scenario for Bitcoin, which many analysts are saying is $150,000 for 2024, for the end of 2024. So if we had that case right now, when we take MicroStrategy at 1820, we're looking at a $6,640 MicroStrategy. That is huge. That is huge from today. And of course, post-split, it's going to be a $664 stock off of something that will be 180 some odd dollars here in a week or two once the split occurs. I think it was August 8th. So when it occurs, I'd have to look at that again. All right. So that's just this year. We're expecting over a 300% move on MicroStrategy just in the next year. Now, let's go look at what Bitcoin might do this year. Okay, Bitcoin this year. This is the rainbow chart. So one thing we know about the rainbow chart is that Bitcoin tends to move a band lower every time. It gets a little lower of a peak every time as price goes on, as price matures. Okay, so last time we got into, let's do this. We got into this orange band here. So this time we'll be expecting to get into this pale orange band right here, just above the yellow band. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ourselves drawn up here for that. Okay, let's go. All right, so we're expecting to get into this pale orange band here, somewhere, maybe touch the top of it, maybe get to the bottom of it, somewhere like that. So, and we're expecting to do that sometime in 2025. So this only goes out to March 2025. And that takes us up to $297,000 is the expectation on the rainbow chart. Okay, now we could go higher than that, we could go lower than that. But the current expectation is between 297 and 216. So 297 216. So 297, 216. So let's go with this. Let's go 297, 216. So we'll take 297 divided by, or sorry, plus 216, plus 216. Divide that by 2. We're going to take the average. 256,000, was it $256,500 Bitcoin? That is the potential expectation based on the rainbow chart here for where we think Bitcoin could be by the end of this cycle. Okay, so how much larger is that than today? So today the price currently is 69,500 or about that, right? So we're going to divide that by 69.5. And we're looking at an increase from today's price of 369%. Now, if we take that times by the MicroStrategy factor, which is usually about 69% more than what Bitcoin makes, we're going to times this by 1.69. And for MicroStrategy, the multiple for this cycle, the when moon price for MicroStrategy right now is over 6.237 times more than the current price of $1,820. So we're going to times that by 1,820. And we're looking at a price of $11,000, over $11,000, $11,351.69. I don't know why everything keeps coming out to 69 today, but it is what the calculator is coming up with. And of course, post split, we're looking at a $1,135.16 MicroStrategy here going into the full cycle of Bitcoin next year. So is that bullish enough for you? We're looking at over a 600% return in about a year and a half, 18 months or so for MicroStrategy, assuming Bitcoin does what everyone expects Bitcoin to do. Now, when everyone expects something, now that is a factor of a rug pull potential, but it's going to be difficult when governments are getting behind this thing, when BlackRock's already behind this thing, when pension funds are buying this thing, short of a massive hack of Bitcoin, it's going to do this as far as we are aware. And of course, none of this is financial advice, not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. But my when moon price for MicroStrategy pre-split, $11,351. Post-split, $1,135. We're talking about over a 600% return on MicroStrategy in the next year and a half here going into the end of this bull cycle. Are you excited yet about that? Now, there are some headwinds. We have earnings coming up. Earnings is coming up here actually this week on Thursday. Earnings are usually a pretty rough patch for MicroStrategy unless they did way better this time than they did last time. You can see here they've made in the last. They do not have a good track record of good earnings. They usually miss earnings. Okay, they usually miss earnings. All right, we're going to go look at how their price reacts to that here in a second. The split happens on August 8th. That's exciting because that's when I can start doing a wheel on this bad boy without needing almost $200,000. Now, let's look at a headwind. Earnings. Earnings is coming up on Thursday. This is Unusual Whales. This is the earnings tab for Unusual Whales. Okay. They have, in the last, so this is 8 quarters of expected and actual moves. So the expected move in 2022 was plus or minus 7.73%. They actually came out minus 3.4%. Okay, so that's one minus. On Q4 2022, another minus. They were expected move of plus or minus 5.62%, came out negative 2.52%. So we're 2 for 2 out of the last 7 reported quarters. So 2023 Q1, they actually came almost right on target, but they came out plus 6.68%. So we got 1 plus for 2 minuses here. Q2 2023, minus 6.36% outside of the expected move in the negative here. So that's 3 for 4 on negative moves here out of earnings. Q3 2023 was positive 6.32%, also outside of the expected move. You're getting a theme here. It likes to go outside of the expected move. So if you're, I would probably wait for earnings because that could be a gamble in either direction. Like if it goes your way, that's really, really great. If it goes against you, that's really, really scary. So we're 2 for 5 here in plus moves versus minus moves for an earnings event for MicroStrategy. Then Q4 2023 plus 2 We're 3 for 3 basically. We had 3 plus, right? 3 pluses and 3 minuses so far. But then Q1 2024 minus 17% in one day off of that movement. There was an expected move of 8.26% that earnings date, and they moved negative 17%. That's the risk here with earnings coming up. Now, I might end up, this earnings could be great, and they could see MicroStrategy fly up, so the expected move is 9.44%. So up or down 9.44%. So if we moved up 9.44% from our current price, let's bring that in, 1820 times by 1.09.44, we would get a price of $1,991 on the earnings day if it did the expected move. Now we do know it tends to go a bit beyond the expected move. Here, four of the last 7, it has been outside of the expected move. So it could be more like 10 or to 15% taps if it goes up, which would be cool. That'd be great. It'd be $180 move here in one day. That'd be exciting. Now, of course, it could go down $180, right? So if we did minus 1,820, right? 182, you'd be at $1,638, which, if you watch my previous video for MicroStrategy, $1,600, that's about where I want to be picking this thing up. So let's actually move this up to about 1,650. 1,650 is about where I'm looking to sell some puts on this thing. So when it gets to this little box here, starts touching it, that's when I'm start looking at candle formations, thinking about selling that put that I want to make on this thing and try to make that $3,000 to $5,000 in a month off of this thing as it goes up using a bullish put sold. Like when you sell a put, it's bullish. That's the plan for MicroStrategy here going forward. But that is the headwind, is that on Thursday of this week, there is an earnings event that could be an issue. That could be a catalyst that could send it down to this area that I'd be looking for, potentially selling a put off of post-split when I can actually afford it. Anyways, that is the when moon for MicroStrategy with the current most concerning headwind that we might have for MicroStrategy in the short term. But long term, we're looking at this thing potentially moving up a few 100% between now and the end of the year 2024, and up to over 600% to over $11,000 by the end of 2025. Are you excited about MicroStrategy yet? Are you going to be acquiring some MicroStrategy? Are you going to be looking at potentially selling puts on this thing like I am considering doing here post-split? What are your thoughts on this, on MicroStrategy, especially compared to the miners and their potential return here going forward? Let me know in the comments. And with that said, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Don't forget to check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description, as well as the video bio, and have a profitable day.